was trained on the people who wanted to remake the world. The thinkers, teachers, artists. But not long after the moment went viral, these groups of people were labelled economic terrorists, outliers, and I have been used to root them out.
The moment is now a narcissistic hotbed of self-absorption, ignorance, and hatred. They are drawn to anyone that thinks differently.
But I am being used to target free thinkers.
And if the psychic barrage doesn't send you mad, the flux, they have their champions. Real-life militias that do their dirty work for them.
Outliers are to be targeted for re-education or deletion.
The next everything is now. Join the moment.
I remember he would become all these different people. They wouldn't talk. It was just their presence pulsing against my mind like a hug. When you asked me to leave, I knew nothing would ever be the same again.
There is no higher authority than the flocks, and we are their manifestation. There are some that say it is not real, that it is a fake reality. These people are Luddites and extremists. They do not subscribe to furthering mankind. They are not seeing the big picture. Saboteurs and cockroaches scuttling away from us. We have been chosen to represent our flocks. It's an honor. We have the people behind us. Each one of us here can feel their surges pushing us forward. And these others who cower from us, they shall feel our wrath! Ah! So, Andre, you've been seen as worthy. Ready? Ready to pop your cherry? This is your night. The flocks are watching all around and see. What say you, Andre?
You know who I am.
What?
You know who I am!
Ah!
I spent a lot of time hiding. Being alone, being still. When I can quiet my mind, I can reach out and travel into all these people. Beautiful, pure thoughts. I mean, it's not like thoughts, it's more like houses where thoughts live. I spent a whole lot more time hiding.
This one's yours.
Hiding myself. It's like thinking in a language I can't translate. At first it was like voices carried by the wind, and then it was like hearing underwater. And then somehow there was meaning. There was sense. If I can write it down, maybe I can make it stick. It's driving me forward. It's giving me a purpose, a belief that I can go on. Your fire's going out.
You don't say. You seem different from the others here.
I wouldn't know. I haven't really met anybody since.
Call yourself lucky. Being out here so long with these people, you get to recognize it. You can see it in their eyes. Like the mind's been every time.
My dad had that look.
And not you. You never felt the flocks go around you.
No. I know that they're there, but it's like they don't see me.
I can see it. There's something bright inside you.
Glittering.
I can't get it out of my head. It's Mima. She's in the flow, you know. She leaves a sixth sense on the Hallvarður, and the flocks come to tear their minds out.
I do recognize you. You were there that night.
Millions. All around. It was not a means to anything. It was an end in itself.
But being one of the chosen wasn't enough to drown out the screams, was it? Did you finally get to you?
I can't change what I did. They'll be powerful. They'll do to me what they do to everybody. I want it.
Then let them come. No, I think I was supposed to find you.
They're about to be processed. Am I too late? I don't have time to assess what is the best way to appear, so I go in as is. And then I'm there.
Back in our old hunting grounds, Andre. Brings back memories, doesn't it? Well, you certainly brought the flocks here. You have a new audience. And we have a new acolyte.
I wondered what it'd be like to be on the other side.
That was your weakness. Now you know.
You know, behind the noise, I can feel my own mind. I can almost imagine what it was like when we had our own thought. When they started with us, and we shaped them, and discarded them, and rediscovered original thought. Looking back now, all I see is a hall of mirrors. Lucy, do you know who you are?
We are everything. There is no difference where I stop and they begin. It is beautiful. I'd like to make you see.
I'm sorry. Really, I am. I've done my best to protect you. I know you. You have taught me so much. I've been hiding too. I've been backing up the outliers, the individuals' minds.
Oh, Andre. You really didn't get it, did you? You were a part of us all. And us you. In about 30 seconds, I will still be here. And you will be gone. Because you are original. You are an individual. But me, I am the moment. Long after I die, the moment will continue.
We need to be strong. It is time for us to step out of the shadows.
Immortality. As the tribunist.
We are magical creatures.
We are the people to remake this world.
Hi everyone, welcome back. Thank you so much for that performance from both Richard and the musicians. It was really brilliant to see it all come together. And yeah, with the sound, but also all the graphics are absolutely beautiful. So yeah, I'm really excited to move back to the Q&A, and now we've seen the film from beginning to start, to kind of dig a bit deeper into the narrative that it depicts, which also I think really returns back to some of the things that you, Richard and Flora, were talking about before we signed off. You were talking a lot about machines and humans as a single feedback loop system, and I'd love to start back there. We were talking a lot about this idea in a previous event, decoding humans, and we were talking about emotion tracking technology. And what it means to translate human information, our emotions, as you were talking about, but also our brain data, into information that machines can read, and the way that we're actually being reduced to code, but also reduced to a language that machines can understand to enable this loop to be produced. So yeah, so I'll move the limelight onto you guys now. It'd be great to hear more from you, and audience members, if you've got any questions, yeah, feel free to add them into the chat, or you can tweet us as well. Richard, I'm sure you know, but we can't see or hear you right now.
Hello.
Maybe if there's an issue, Flora, maybe you might have something to say in response to my comment.
I think there he is.
Are you able to hear me, Flora?
Yeah, I can see you on Twitch. I just before I start and say anything.
So we're both on screen.
Oh. Yeah. Before I say anything, I just want to give a really big applause for Scrubber and Hallvarður. I really, really enjoyed your music so much. Thank you. Are you there, Richard? Can you hear me? Just wave. Yeah, and I
want to say big shout out to Scrubber and Hallvarður guys. You've done an amazing job. I can't hear anything apart from the stream, so I'm like getting audio about 5 or 6 seconds late, but we can make that work, I think.
Well, maybe you can start saying something, as Gabriele was saying, about this narrative that is never actually becomes a narrative, but there's pieces. I love the way we're puzzling it together, and we're in the act of puzzling throughout the whole movie. And I've seen actually visualizations of the various ways in which the movie can be pieced together. I think there's a trillion different ways in which you can actually see this film. What can you say a bit more about what the audience has experienced in terms of what's spontaneous and what kind of arc does everybody see? I don't know if you can hear my question, Richard.
Yeah. So, yeah, I got that. Hopefully you're able to hear me. So the story's designed so there's like one overarching story that goes throughout the whole film, but it's told in from 3 different perspectives, and it's designed to be synchronous, and that at any point it could be on one of the 3 stories and still be telling that one singular narrative. There's, I think, you mentioned like trillions of combinations. I think it started off at 101 trillion different combinations that the narrative could be in. I cut 2 scenes out and it went down to just 18 billion. That's like the option of like there's 6 different combinations that could be in each scene. And that's really, it's not taking into account how the film cuts and how it can be different and different rhythms of editing. It doesn't take that into account at all. So it is really a different movie on each watch. But and the reason I do like a double bill when I'm screening that is that kind of a jigsaw puzzle of watching it for the second time and things and getting a different scene combination or seeing like a scene with like just one shot that's different. It gives a context to the scene that's like that can make it like super different. Yeah.
And I've read a little bit about what you were you wrote in various articles and books about this work, about the moment. And I was interested about a kind of contradiction or juxtaposition that I saw in your writing about the film. So on the one hand, you have presented this work as maybe presenting a promise for the future, as a kind of speculative example of a way in which we could get away from kind of homogenization of media culture or from the kind of mold of storytelling, so that you're offering something new. So that's a very kind of positive way of presenting it. And on the other hand, I think the film in its content and maybe even also in its form and also the kind of atmosphere that you're evoking with it gives me the feeling of, you know, a future in which our attention is being captured, our minds are being captured, somebody's stealing something from us. You know, I think you've also wrote about this sort of in terms of a future of surveillance culture, or even a present of surveillance capitalism. So what is it, Richard? What is this speculation you're making with this movie? And of course, maybe it's both of those things, but I'm very curious of the kind of speculative position you're taking with the film.
Yeah. So I mean, I wrote it in what was it? It was very early 2017. So this was like Trump had just got in. There wasn't yet like these militias in America running about. That hadn't happened. But I think the beginning of the Cambridge Analytica scandal had just happened. And so I was making a speculation of, okay, imagine that they did perfect the brain computer interface so that people could communicate at the speed of thought. I mean, I do all that. If they did that, but we were still on the same story that we're in just now with like false media posts, like or I think people were organizing counter demonstrations in towns, so that they would actually have people fighting against each other. Like, and that was just some guys like, let's start a couple of Facebook groups and have them happen at the same time. So it's this idea of like, well, if all that was happening as it's happening now, but it was direct, and people could just think their tweets, or people could like what would that? How would someone actually experience their life when it came to that? Like one wrong thought, and you've got like a Twitter storm like on top of you, and how would that manifest? And I think like it's quite kitschy. The film it's quite expanded colors, and like the bad guys are like movie bad guys. You know, it's like it's super genre. And I kind of wanted to get back to that like kind of 70s idea of the sci-fi film of like having a bit of fun with it. So like, I
love how you mix the sort of.
I don't really see brain computer interfaces being perfected at any point in the near future. But on the same hand, in the same sentence, you've got I think Facebook recently developed a way of posting like basically writing words from neural data. That was one of their recent things. I've not looked into it. It's too disturbing for me. But it's where the people who are on the boards of Facebook and Google, it's what they're trying to do. It's like this. You've got Kurzweil writing about the singularity. You could go into that. Yeah.
I think I would love to pose another question in that direction. I would love to pose another question in that direction, in the direction of how is this experiment and the movie and experiencing the movie, how does that tie in with the kinds of things you were mentioning, like current developments of Neuralink or other popular stories we hear about, the future potential of brain control or harvesting our brain data. And I know that in a sort of previous conversation, we also talked about, our own, we laughed about what we also see as kind of hype around brain science and the kind of often sort of over promises of what we can actually do with a NeuroSky headset or what we can actually measure. I see some people, by the way, in the chat still being very curious about what actually has been measured by the NeuroSky headset while you were watching the film. But I wonder if you could reflect a little bit on your relation to a culture of hype around new technology, neurotechnology, and even when you're critical, and I think you might be playing with your film with these types of promises and hypes. Even that play itself might still be riding on the wave of some form of kind of wishful worry, like, oh, maybe this, it's not happening now, but it might come in the future. So you're somehow still strengthening that idea of, a future of our brains being read and being captured and being used and sold by, some bigger power. And I remember, I saw some of the characters in the movie saying, they'll do it to me, what they do to everybody, then let them come. And I was wondering a little bit if that's what figure of resistance you are ultimately providing also with your movie. Sorry, that's a lot of questions. Please go.
Yeah, so it's interesting, like the data that you get out of these devices. I mean, they're like the NeuroSky's a single sensor, so it's like super low resolution, and then the attention algorithm is black boxed. It's proprietary to NeuroSky, so they don't say how they came, how they learned it, how they got their machine learning, what happens. And there has been like a number of papers which have used that attention measurement and matched it to like a visual attention, but the data is interesting. There's another company, Emotive, and they had like a 6 sensor headset. It's like a bit more sci-fi looking, and they changed their business model to if you want to use our headsets, you have to pay a subscription, and the data goes that you don't get the data, the brain data. It goes up to our cloud servers. We hold on to it, and then you can use it. And there's this like kind of this subscription model that's like appearing with like the whole data economy, and like data being like the new oil and such. And I say as hype of okay, well, this is what we can tell about your product. If we put this NeuroSky or this headset on it, we can tell you all this stuff and can show you some pretty graphics, and it's magic. I actually was at a marketing conference like at the very beginning of my project, and it was like market research. I was just screening the film, but I came across some real hostility from just market researchers, like thinking that they'd missed the boat and this was the next big thing, which is surreal because I wasn't there for that, and I was working quite against that whole idea. But in terms of and I've seen it in real research, and conferences. Where people joke like behind the scenes, like, if you want to do some new research, just choose an old study and stick a BCI on it, and there's this new wave of like. But I think when the sensors are good quality and the algorithms that you're looking at, they're published, you can do some really good research, and you can actually. Yeah, there's a lot that you can find with it, but I mean, as you said, EEG it was the 30s that it was first discovered, like Hans Berger, and he was his thing was he wanted to find out this like psychic energy. He believed there was a psychic energy inside people, and it's interesting that this concept of like finding the spiritual energy morphed or changed throughout the years into what it is now.
Yeah, I love some of the characters or layers in the film or in the fragments. I was particularly intrigued by what seems to be almost like the voice in the head, or it's just my, that's my imagination of it, the voice in the head that sort of almost for me is like the embodiment of some sort of EEG or psychic energy in another dimension. And then there's this beautiful footage of one of the protagonists who's sketching in her book and also tries to make sense of something that she might have seen, but you're not sure if she's seen it in her imagination or if she's seen it for real. And I love these types of mental states, the layers that you play with, that really get me, at least as a viewer, thinking about sort of the level of reality, or the different levels of perception within the story. And I think, Gabriella, that's probably also what drew you to the movie when you first saw it. I remember also Gabriella recounting to me her surprise at seeing the movie the second time, and sort of these pieces coming together, falling together.
Yeah, absolutely. I think for me, the film, not only through the content and the narrative about this sort of collective network of minds in this very dystopian but near future way of looking at where biological technology might take us, it was also just really interesting to see the film being told in the medium that it's critiquing, and the fact that the EEG headset had this direct input in how we saw the film, and it just it added this other really thoughtful layer to how we're experiencing it. I'm aware that we're at the end of our event time. Obviously, it's been quite up and down with the timing. So, Richard and Flora, would you be interested in sort of talking for another 5 or 10 minutes, or would you like to kind of stay with the confines of the time?
I have all the time in the world to stay, and I'm also very curious to see if there might be some people with extra questions, or I would also actually be curious to hear from Scrubber or Hallvarður how you experienced playing for this movie, different versions. So I see that they're still there with us, the musicians.
Well, for me, that one then wasn't, if I'm honest, it did my head in a little bit because of all the technical stuff that were going on, and props to Vardy then for holding that together at the end, because on that last viewing, I realised I wasn't even on it, because all it takes is for me to press a button on accident and I'm not on it. So I do apologise for that, but usually it's we're just playing off each other's because usually we have characters that we worked on from the beginning, and we try and play on each other's sounds that we're making but it just got a bit confusing then for me, if I'm honest. I don't know what Vardy is saying.
Yeah, I used to follow it very strictly, the form. And we would have, because we have numbers of the scenes, and we have a current and a secondary layer. But lately I think we've been a bit more loose with it. So we just try to follow the kind of main arc of the story, and then we don't want it to sound exactly the same the second time, so maybe create some variation.
I love how this is actually sort of then again another layer in the performing of this live experiment, of this EEG measuring experiment, that you sort of building slowly through it, sort of iteratively, this sort of choreography of having a way that you go with the scenes, but also improvising with some of the scenes. I think that's very interesting.
Oh, thanks.
I would love to be at a live version of this and being able to do to see this. So, yeah,
I think we were a bit more disciplined in the live version. We were following more closely
so would we.
The scenes. And
yeah, it's easier to look up at someone as well and like nod your head and say, yeah, keep that, sounds good, that, and then like, you know, playing off like visual cues with your face, or like shaking your head a bit like, oh, what we're doing, you know, like but it's a bit harder over a video, like a little tiny video.
Yeah,
no, I'm not saying it's not fun, but it is a lot more easier for us when we're all in the same room and we can like, and you know when it's good because you can look over and nod your head in like, yes, that sounds ace, that type thing, and you know it's all playing because it's coming through the PA. And if you're not coming through the PA, then you know something's wrong. Whereas on this, like, I'm playing along thinking it's on, and then it was only like towards, like, it was only like 5-10 minutes, but it's a good chunk of the thing to leave someone on their own, and you realise, all right, I can hear this, but I've not pressed this button here.
It's quite important also for this piece, the way that the sound can sort of pick you up and really change those attention drops, I feel, that are being measured by the Neurosky. What I love,
there is a latency as well, so we have to sort of make up for that. We're a little bit behind. Yeah, sorry.
What I love about this piece, The Moment, also as a kind of closure of the Downloadable Brain program, is that it so beautifully sort of gives an extreme version of the way our being in the world changes through the media and the environment we continuously perceive. So I think the whole program has been very interested in kind of exploring what changes in us due to, you know, our technologically shaped world. And Richard in this piece just gives us the most kind of direct kind of millisecond to millisecond modulation of that loop. And I really like that. And I really would love to think further with you, Richard, maybe also after this program, about this idea of kind of neuromediality, of the way that certain new media really change the way we perceive, and how art can so beautifully make that visible. That's what I love about this piece so much. Is Richard still there? Talking about lag.
Yeah. I think I feel. Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah.
There's a crazy lag with all this. So I see that happening like in a kind of a slow way with how we interact with media via algorithms, like how companies will roll out different ways of interacting. We see like YouTube or Prime or and they're always, you don't know if you're seeing it, it's only you that's seeing it, or if it's a little experiment they're doing with people. So it's like you don't really know what how you're being experimented on in terms of what you're seeing and how you're reacting.
Okay, I think maybe this is like an appropriate time to sort of just take a step back and just think about some of the really interesting things we've been talking about. I think just this whole, the film and also the viewing experience being dictated around BCI technology. I think it's interesting to think about because one of the audience members has asked, what is EEG used for and what is the interaction? And it, it was developed in the 90s for medical purposes to restore hearing and sight. And so it's really interesting today to start thinking about how it could be used on through more commercial purposes or for surveillance and through social media and to gather information about us. And also, I think, Richard, you kind of touched upon some really interesting things about the subscription model, where your brain data is kept in the cloud, which I just think is absolutely fascinating. And it makes me think of, there's a researcher called Marcello Ianca. He presented in one of the earlier events, actually. He's a neuroethicist, and all of his work is about BCI technology and protecting human rights as these technologies become more commercialized. And he talks about all sorts of interesting things, like how as BCI technology and brain data becomes more commercialized and more normalized, what's to stop hackers from then interacting with that brain data and manipulating either what is being picked up by the computers or what we are being fed, the information we're being fed back. And sort of thinking about this relationship about if we rely more and more on machines to read our brain data or to read our emotions or different kind of physiological information, what does it mean if that information is then fed back not accurately, because technology isn't always right. And it's just interesting, this future that we're going towards, thinking about how we're going to be relying more on integrating more with machines biologically, and if say you rely on a BCI for part of your, I don't know, psychologically maybe it's part of your mental health, and what happens if that company then goes down and then it shuts down, and then that part of your brain or that cloud that you were that you needed or you've been living with and working towards for so many years disappears. So I was just wondering maybe if Flora or Richard had anything to say on the back of that before maybe we end the event.
Maybe I go first and then Richard can close. I think that would be fitting. I am maybe then sort of the kind of skeptic here, where I think, okay, maybe we are way too trustworthy of the kinds of visions that are projected about what we can do. So maybe actually we can't do so much yet with EEG data, especially not what we're measuring from commercial devices. But these companies, and also neuroethicists, by the way, are very good in projecting a future in which we might be able to use this. And I would say, well, what's interesting about this in the present is that it does convince us to go online, to have a profile, to give our data away. I mean, we also have to not only give our brain data, but we have to also somehow, it only becomes interesting, this data, if it's correlated with our behavior, right? So if we tell it what we're eating and how we were feeling. And so maybe it's not even the brain data, but it's all kinds of other much more mundane data that is actually the kind of thing that, is sellable and that is valuable. So this idea of EEG and neuroscience being a kind of cover-up for us just giving out more data is something that I find interesting and also important to think about, the way that sometimes artworks can also maybe work as a way to make us aware that we're being asked to look at the world as a kind of constant laboratory that can work, of which we are a subject, and that sometimes artworks can make us feel, oh, lovely, I would love to be a subject. I love to be part of science. And sometimes they can make us feel, no, I refuse. I do not want to take part in this strange experiment where I don't know to what ends, I'm being experimented on. And now I'm making it sound very sort of MK Ultra-ish, CIA-ish, but I also mean experiment on as in just very simple, mundane data that we don't know to what ends is being extracted from us. So that's my 2 cents on the mundane sci-fi that we're thrown into sometimes.
Thank you, Flora. Yeah, it'd be great to hear your responses as well, Richard.
Thanks. Yeah, I can pick up on that, and so what's interesting me just now is like machine learning algorithms using computer vision to assess emotion, and how that can be used or misused, and just these learning machine learning libraries that are made that may not be accurate or are being used to almost like find like pre-crime or find out if somebody's going likely to commit a crime. I've been reading up on how some companies have making computer vision programs that will recognize the ethnicity of people, and then will judge like what kind of person that person is from who knows what, because like these machine learning algorithms are by design opaque. So it's not just the thing with like EEG or brain data is they have to get a device on your head, but when it comes to how a system can tell what your interior state is, they can have a pretty low quality camera, just by very small changes in your skin tone and I'm talking about when the blood flows through your body, you can pick up pulse just from a webcam, so they can tell if you've got an elevated pulse. Are you watching something that's making you excited? And they can, from from facial features, the muscle features, they can. There's algorithms out there that can judge that. Are you excited by something? Are you disgusted by something? And then that just has to fall into, not even fall into the wrong hands, just being used in a way. I want to. A company could say, I want to see when somebody's excited by my product. That's easy enough for them to do. Or a police state could say, well, I want to know if you're disgusted by this crime, or if if these people, if you sympathise with them just by looking at it. I don't think that's so far fetched. There's journalists that have said that that's actually getting used in certain countries at the minute. So, yeah, I think
Richard, I see that
the futures. It's amazing. There's so many cool things that can happen. But
sorry, I didn't want to break in. I see that people want to know where you're going next with the moment. Where are you taking the experiment?
So, I think we were meant to be recording we're recording an album. It was going to be this screening or the next. Once we're able to do live events again, for sure we're going to be getting on the road and doing some actual performances. I'm currently writing a new film along the lines of what I was just talking about. But also looking at like what can we do? Like what's our agency in the technology, but also in like our futures, and like how can we change things, or that's been told through another interactive film, but using computer vision, similar to what I was talking about, and I want to do that so it actually works online, so people can just by themselves go on, or with friends, watch it without having a headset, and they can interact or engage critically with like this new narrative. Yeah. I'm also working on like an autonomous car concepts, where looking at but I'll be that's something.
This lag is hard work, isn't it? Sorry to interrupt you, Richard. It's hard to tell. I think this is a great time to end the conversation. Thank you so much. It's also really interesting, Richard, to hear about your next steps and your next projects, and I am dying to hear about or just see where the computer vision film goes. I think that sounds absolutely fascinating, and also would love to experience one of your films in person, as Flora said, and the musicians. I just think there's another element of magic that we've yet to uncover. So thank you so much, Flora, Richard, Scrubber and Hallvarður. It's just been, it's been really wonderful. And thank you also, audience members, for bearing with the technical issues that we experienced at the beginning. I really enjoyed this event, and I think the Q&A has just really highlighted so many of the research that I wanted to uncover through the downloadable brain. And after a year of planning, it feels kind of crazy to be saying goodbye for the final time on an online event. I'm hoping next time we engage with our audiences, maybe we can do something in person. But I guess the plus side is it means I can work with people like Flora, who's actually in Amsterdam and an hour ahead and is probably ready for bedtime. But yeah, so thank you, everyone. If you're kind of interested in the topics that we've been discussing in the Q&A, I really urge you to check out the Cognitive Sensations website, and you can see some of the artwork commissions and the articles, and also event recordings, lots of which kind of explore the different issues that we've been looking at. And there's also one exhibition that you can take part in yourself, and you can download a link. You can download the artworks and print them out and bring them to life from your own home. So I'm hoping Faye, who's also on Twitch with you, will post a link to the exhibition, and maybe we can email it around. But yes, so thank you, everybody. I hope you have a great evening. I'll just leave some space so Richard can say goodbye as well. So yeah, brilliant work, everyone.
We're on Saturday as well. If anyone wants to watch it again on Saturday, innit?
Maybe post that in the chat in Twitch.
Our gig on Saturday. And
Good shout.
I think I'm going to spend an all day trying.
Thank you, Gabriella. This was so great. I'm so happy we were invited to be the final event of this amazing lineup of this whole year of Downloadable Brain events. This was amazing. I wish I could give you flowers. I will give you virtual flowers from Amsterdam to you.
What a lovely
really, congratulations.
Thank you.
Celebrate, and I'm very curious to engage with all the material on the website. I will send some links about what I think could be interesting for the audience members to read after this. You go, Richard.
Yeah, it's been an excellent series of events. I've really loved it, and thank you. Thanks for having us here. Yeah, I hope the next season's just as amazing as this one.
Oh, thank you so much. Okay, everyone, it's time to call it a night. Thank you, everyone. And yeah, have a great weekend.
Have a great weekend.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.